Hello and welcome to the Christian Adventures Global Community. I am so excited to be with you here this evening. You know, we've got some exciting things happening at Christian Adventures. And I am beginning a new series I call How Big Can Possible Be in You? Have you ever thought about that question? How big can possible be in you? Well, the response that we learned from our mentor is, possible is as big as the people you are willing to allow into your world. You know, as I was in business school, I remember the one thing that I learned. You know, they often taught us it's not what you know or if you know how to do something, but it's who you know. And many years ago, when Ford was put before a court of law in Michigan, I think he was actually accused of being an idiot. And Ford sat there before the court of law. And he said, as he looked at the judge, as he looked at the cross-examination, he said to the people in the courtroom, it's not what I know, but it's who I know. Excuse me. Pardon me. And he simply asked, he said, I can have the answers to the questions that you seek very clearly. Just give me 1 minute. Excuse me. Been doing a lot of talking today, folks. So, his response to the question, when being accused of being, if you will, accused of being an idiot, his response was not one of fear, but his response was knowledgeable. His understanding was, I have access to the resource that I need. Well, what does that have to do with how big can possible be in you, folks? The reality is that in order to address this subject, I cannot address this subject without addressing the reality that God, the creator of the universe, has chosen to put on human flesh. When you and I believed on him, he came to live in us. This is the one with abundant resource, abundant ideas, abundant opportunity, abundant knowledge. We know the ultimate who that can provide the ultimate answer and questions so that you and I can fulfill the destiny that God has for us. As I came into today's global community hour together, actually it's not an hour, 15 minutes, I had this thought. And I wanted to share it with you because this is really what we are about here at Christian Adventures. Christian Adventures is the world's most respected provider of tent evangelism and mobilization. Where have I crafted that statement from, and why have I crafted that statement? And what does that have to do with how big can possible be in you? Well, where did I get it from? The reality is that this year we are coming to the culmination of phase 1 of the Tent 100 project. But in culminating phase 1, in other words, we're just a few tents away from 100 tents, and we will celebrate 20 years of that project. In celebrating the 20 years and the culmination of phase 1, I'm here to tell you folks, we're just getting started. How big can possible be in me today and in you today, friends and partners? Well, Europe is before us, and every nation of Europe deserves a gospel witness. Every nation of Europe deserves a tent. Every nation of Europe deserves training and preparation so they can release and have a modern day gospel witness in their generation. But we're not stopping there because, folks, I'm here to tell you that now is the hour for America. We have been traveling around the United States, going from church to church. We've been in the West, we've been in the North, we've been in the East, we've been in the central part of the United States of America, and we've been in the South. And we are hearing one and the same spoken across this great land. There is a generation that has not yet been outside the walls of the church. And they're hungry. They have vision. They have passion. They want to help people. But they haven't been given the tools to know how to reach into their communities with the good news. So, we are a provider of tent evangelism and mobilization training and strategies. We remain and are committed to completing phase 1 of the Tent 100 project. We are committed and remain committed to providing tents for the Ukraine and propelling the Russian-speaking peoples into Europe and beyond while reaching the Ukraine and the ex-Soviet territories with the good news. We are committed to Europe, the Europe who is in crisis, the Europe who gave America Wesley, the Europe who gave America Asbury and Whitefield, and many of our great early church founders, the Puritans, those who came on the ships and the boats at all at cost, leaving everything, searching for a land where they could live free in their faith before God. This Europe is in crisis. And Europe, who was asleep, secular Europe, thought, and I read a recent article on this. The article stated clearly that Europe felt it was a good thing to invite Islam and those cultures out of the Middle East into their country. Why? Because they believed that culture, those cultures, would supply the laborers that they needed in their land to supply and to support their socialistic system. Are you listening to me? And they were deceived. There was a blanket over their eyes because long before Europe decided to welcome the Middle East into its borders, the Middle East had already decided that Europe was in decline and only populating 2 children max per family. Yet every Muslim family was having at least 6 to 8 children. And with this strategy, although they might not be able to defeat Europe militarily, they could defeat Europe with their boots on the ground. Folks, Europe is in crisis. We've been going there for many years. And although there is a crisis, there is an hour of destiny for Europe. For every nation in Europe deserves a tent. Every nation in Europe deserves good news. And every nation of Europe can be trained to reach their own people. But in the midst of being a part of what's happening in Europe, we are also launching here in the United States of America 50 tents for 50 states, training 50 evangelists, reaching from the east to the north to the south and to the west, proclaiming the good news. How will we do this? We produce quality tents that are easy to move, erect, and they keep functioning year round. We have our own factory. A new factory will be established in order to supply the growing international demand for tents when and where that tent factory is required. We are initiating in the United States of America in November of this year the I Move training, and it is a premier boot camp mobilization program, and we anticipate training. And as one of our team members said here tonight, hey, when we launch this in November, let's have a representative from every state in the United States of America, and let's get going quick. Folks, together we can do it. Why? Because we've determined how big can possible be in us. There is a land that was committed by a compact a couple of centuries ago. And in that compact, the commitment was that from the shores of this land and within its shores, the gospel would be freely preached and the people would freely celebrate this Christ Jesus whom we know. How big can possible be in you? It's as big as you will allow it to be by inviting people into your world. Folks, I'm inviting America into my world. Will you run with us? Will you stand with us? Now is the hour for this country. Will you decree and will you declare that in this hour, America can be one once again? You and I have experienced and have knowledge perhaps of those moments when there have been visitations in regions of this country. But I am here to declare to you and speak, I believe an all-out awakening is coming to the United States of America, and we can reach together, state to state, church to church, home to home, land to land, job to job, business to business. We can arise together, and we can see this country impacted with the glorious good news in this hour. How does a dream become a reality? A dream becomes a reality when we simply step up to the line and we are willing to say, yes, here I am. I can do it. Dr. T.L. Osborne wrote to us many years ago, and I've shared this in other of our programs, that often money is your problem. And he said, I wish T.L. Osborne, our mentor, who gave us the mandate. You see, the letters I'm reading to you today are the epistles written by T.L. Osborne, the letters to the church of Eurasia. And folks, as Kevin and I were reading these letters today, we understood as we read them that now it is time for us to be a voice to a generation of America. Because as we stood in our office looking at our map where the tents and the events have dotted all of the regions of Eurasia, hundreds of dots representing over 1,000 of outreaches across Eurasia, we looked back to America and we recognized not one red dot on the landscape of the United States of America. And folks, we are a premier tent evangelization and mobilization ministry ready to reach into the heart of America. How big can possible be for you and in your world? It begins by simply asking a question. The question that we're ready to ask today is, what are we willing to allow God to do through us? As I was getting ready for this session, a quote came to me earlier, and I want to read this quote to you because these are words that have impacted and have rung throughout the generations. Actually, I want to back up before I do that. Let me give you this quote. In the 1960s, JFK announced that America would have a man on the moon in the 60s. As I read after that staggering announcement, it was understood by NASA that they had their marching orders. They had determined, they were in unison, they had decided that now was the hour and that in the 1960s, America would have a man on the moon. And folks, on July 20th of 1969, and even I, as a little 7-year-old girl, sat there before the television as my mom and my dad said, history is being made. As I come to you today through this form of communication, I want you to hear my voice ring, and I want you to hear the call, the clarion call of God, that now is the hour, that the United States of America can be one in this hour and in this generation. We can reach the 50 states of the United States of America, and we can run, and we can do it together. How is destiny formed? Destiny is formed when we stand up together and we decree and we declare it shall be done in our generation. Thank you for joining me here in this program. We look forward to being with you each time you have the opportunity to participate in the Christian Adventures global community. I have so many more things to share with you, and I look forward to our coming sessions together. Together, you and I, we can do it. Let's see America and Europe one for Jesus. 2018, we celebrate the 110 Project. Partners, thank you. You've made it a reality. Why is that significant? And what is its importance to the globe? And as we look across the horizon of 2018, we understand we're just getting started. Every nation of Europe needs a tent. Every state in the United States needs a tent. And together we can place hundreds of tents into these vast territories. You might ask somebody in their 50s or in their 60s, what do you know of the tent revivals? They're going to tell you names like Oral Roberts, T.L. Osborne, Billy Graham, many names that were involved in a mighty tent move across America. We're no longer in that hour. That generation has passed on. And today there is a young generation. They have a desire and a passion to get outside the four walls of the church and to take good news to their generation, so they're ready.
And I'm expecting America to have a new generation, because the generation that now exists, the young generation, has never seen it like that before, and it will happen again.
Every generation must have a visitation
of good news.
This is the hour for America again.
Faithful partners, as we approach this first milestone of 100 tenths, we say thank you. We could have never done this without your participation. We are a team.
Thank you for joining us, being with us.
Come on, let's run together. We can